Okay, continuing the discussion on the Cerwin Vega Stroker. Um, where I left off was talking about, that you these kind of require a different skill set, um, to set up properly. You really need to know a lot about the driver itself and how they work, and about you know the physics of sub frequencies. And it can be a tricky driver from what I understand to set up properly. But if you can accomplish it, these pay dividends. The things I want to point out, so that for posterity, because people need to know that this isn't exactly how a stroker would originally look. This has been reconed. This spider would be normally be yellow. Um, this Rubitex gasket, I don't know if they used a Rubitex gasket. I put this one on. Rubitex no longer comes in half inch, which I have no idea why, but you can't find it anywhere for any price unless you want to buy a driver that had it and then cut it off that and put it on another one. So this is 3/8 Rubitex, so you can see this little gap. Um, Really, when it's sitting in a box, it doesn't look all that bad. I like the look a lot better than whoever reconed this. They put just a black paper, and that just didn't give it a good look. So I replaced it with this. Um, they did a pretty good job. There's a little bit of glue you can see over here on the spider, but I'd rather have too much glue than not enough. So they did a pretty good job. Whoever redid this one. The tinsel leads on this, they left too long on this side. You see maybe how close that comes to the cone. And these have a fair amount of travel, and so I don't want to smack it in there. So I'm going to desolder that, pull it through the eyelet, and then resolder it. Um, you know, but yeah, just these high quality push terminals. Another look at those. This does have a boot to kind of. I don't believe the pro or the home version of the Stroker had this on there, and it definitely didn't have that sticker on there. This cone is a paper pulp. I mean I can't say for certain, but I've never seen such a stiff paper pulp cone. I mean it is really beefy. I've seen on there was like a Cerwin Vega fan website, and there's a guy standing on an 18, and he's not a small dude. It was a rather big guy, and to show just how strong these subwoofers were. I mean, they were extremely durable. You'll see them blown, but that's because people were just abusing these things. They were one of the few subs of the time period that could handle it for any period of time. And not the only one, but these had a legendary status back in the '90s. They but they were kind of unattainable by the average person, just due to how expensive these were. And I will have to get maybe some MSRPs, but I want to say roughly 800 for the 12,000 for the 15, 1,200 for the 18, but don't quote me on that. It was somewhere in that vicinity, I do believe. Put it way out of my price range. Um, but yeah, in Cerro and Vega, they're just you know they're known for their bass. I mean, I'm surprised that they didn't make maybe a bigger mark in the '90s other than the Stroker. Um, I think early '90s maybe they were a little more highly regarded. Uh, because that's just they did their home enclosures were known for being really efficient. A lot of people call them frat speakers because they were, you know, they'd get really loud. And you can crank rock on them. A lot of audiophiles kind of thumb their nose at the Cerro Vega line of enclosures, but I've owned several pairs. The D9s, AT15s, and currently I own a set of AT10s, and to me they're actually excellent sounding cabinets. And I'm gonna do some home audio videos after I'm done running through a lot of the car audio equipment I do have. Um, But yeah, they just I've never heard a Cerwin Vega product that didn't do bass and do it really well. I wouldn't say they necessarily have a distinct sound to them. They just, other than just very high output. Um, and then two, if you're looking to get into Cerwin Vega, I don't know if I think you might have kind of missed the boat. Um, because they have shot up in price, almost doubling in the last 2 years. Um, like an AT-15, you used to be able to get a good representation, a set of those from anywhere from $300 to $400. Um, you probably couldn't get the AT-12s. Oh, I also owned a set of AT-12s for that price. So those generally start around four. You probably pay $500 to $600 for a set of AT-15s or a D9 or even more, if you go to like eBay. Um, so they've really gone up in price. Strokers you do not see very often. I happen to find this one on a Craigslist deal very close to where I live. I only had to drive like 2 miles. I got this one for a little under $100. It came in this enclosure, which is just way too small. And so I just I don't know I don't want to run a video or show a video of it running in there. It's just it's not optimized for that at all. That's about half the size it needs to be. Um, but I will be doing a future video, and I'll try to write down some more of the facts and pin down the exact specifics of these drivers. But I would like it if people that, because I know there's people out there that know about these things and know a lot about them. Um, and if they could comment on specifics, interesting facts about these, that would be fantastic. Just the things that I knew were that hey, this was originally designed in the late '70s as a pro audio theater uh, sub bass driver. And then when Cerwin Vega started getting in serious into the car audio market, they basically just brought this driver over into the car audio. I don't believe there's a lot of difference between the pro slash home and uh, and car audio versions of these, but just the Cerwin Vega Stroker, uh, definitely definitely a legend. And hopefully I'll be able to get my hands on maybe a set of these, or maybe a larger size. I've heard that the 15s are the ones that are the most desirable. Um, but I've heard I believe there's the three, the 12 inch, the 15, and the 18, and I've heard those three sizes, and all of them were super impressive. They get stupid loud, but not obnoxiously. They it's I think they do it, but they sound good doing it. So yeah, just wanted to finish up this video, and you know just because I definitely wanted to get to that. This isn't exactly how it would look. I mean, it would have the fabric surround. That's normal. Oh, another thing too is that I am interested in is these have a high um, free air resonance rating, very high, even for the time. People were saying, but then so people go, well, they can't get low. From what I've heard, they seem to do fine low, um, in a large ported enclosure, and so I don't think that that's an issue to me. Maybe they don't get as low as other drivers that are optimized for that sort of thing, but I mean, to me, they sounded just fine. And then um, the fact that they're so stiff and so just beefy built, yet maintain a high dB of sensitivity, I'm kind of curious as to how they accomplish that. I know that there's a couple ways you can do that with voice coil design, whether it's overhung or underhung. Um, and all that is whether the entire coil at rest is inside the gap, or if part of it's sticking out of the gap. I believe that these are what they would call underhung, which would be the entire voice coil inside the gap. And I believe that the PPIs were designed the same way, which is why they are known to get fairly loud. Those are not the most efficient drivers though. This is just a crazy efficient driver. So But I do believe that that the underhung design of the voice coil, and hopefully if I'm wrong, somebody can correct me on that, is a way to get a more efficient response from a driver that may have heavier components. Anyway, that's all I have on the Cerwin Vega Stroker.